actually, if you're talking about history, then we do have to talk about the Balfour Declaration, because the discussion of why was there even a discussion about. I mean, you do understand, even before the Balfour Declaration, if you look at, for example, the communications between Chaim Weizmann,
right?
Yeah, and British officials,
yes.
You'll find that those letters, for example, from Weizmann and those officials, was saying like, why don't you go into Uganda? And this is actually written. You can go read this.
Yeah, okay, that could be true.
Why don't you?
Okay, yeah.
It's not, I mean, I've got the primary source materials if you want.
I'm not arguing on this.
Right.
Yeah,
So
I'm not here to argue
the question is.
Yeah, I'm not here to argue on history. Yeah, okay.
Well, we have to speak about something, isn't it?
Yeah, okay.
Right.
I'm not arguing.
Otherwise, what we're here to do, right?
No, I'm here to say.
Yeah.
Do you agree?
You're making a historical case, right?
No, I'm saying as of now, the Jewish people have a right to the land of Israel. Do you agree to that?
I'll tell you, there is an extent to which that is true. I accept
so
that.
We agree.
There is, no, it's not completely agreement.
Okay.
Look, I'm saying that there is an extent to which that is true. Absolutely.
Okay,
Jewish
amazing.
people, and by the way, I haven't got any problem in saying that outright.
Okay,
that
cool.
Jewish,
So that's
Jewish people, and here's my issue.
And I'm not coming to push Muslims. I think Muslims also do.
So Muslims are, no, I would disagree with that. Muslims are 1.8 billion people of the world.
Okay, the Muslims.
Right? And if they all had the right to go there, it would be overpopulated.
Okay,
right?
That's true. Yes.
Yeah.
But I think the Muslims that were living there, or the Muslims that
you mean the Palestinians, right?
Palestinians, yes.
Arabs. You can call them Arabs, Arab
100%,
Palestinians,
yes,
or whatever.
Exactly, yes.
Okay, no problem. Just for the sake of argument,
right.
What I'm saying to you is, what I find troubling, is the fact that in the first instance, the Jewish lobby, or you can say the Zionist movement, which you said you don't really agree with anyway.
I don't necessarily, yes.
Yeah, in all cases. But they were given the options by this other colonial administrator called the British Empire. Where do you want to go, really? And then the case was made by Chaim Weizmann and the other, Zionist propagators. They go to Uganda. No, Uganda, they said, it's nothing to do with us. We don't want to go to that place. We want to go to a place where our people, right, historically were located, which is in this place called Israel, or this place called Palestine, but which we call, or are going to call Israel. Yeah. This is the history. And then after that, Arthur Balfour put forward the Balfour Declaration.
That wasn't all the Jewish people. There's been Jewish people living in Israel throughout history. We're talking about the main, most of the Jewish people.
I haven't got a problem. Look, I'm not talking about the demographics of that area throughout history. That's a different discussion.
Yeah, okay.
But what I'm saying is that when the Balfour Declaration was put in place, that Balfour Declaration basically gave the right of one people to come into another people's land without the permission of those people that were there. All right, now that is the equivalent of, from a historical perspective.
But we said that the British governed post 1948 the land of Israel.
You mean pre?
Sorry, pre. I'm getting the wrong word. Pre.
Okay.
You said that. So who's this other peoples that you're representing and saying that this is their country?
What do you mean? Sorry.
You said that the Balfour Declaration stated that the Jews can go to another country, another people's country, and rule it.
But it was. They didn't even say it was a colony, though. They didn't even say we ruled over that land like that. They said we have a mandate to govern in that area.
Okay,
so according to their own
right over to the Jewish.
Yeah, they had no right to give that right.
Why
though.
not?
Because they, according to their own premise, they said we have a mandate to govern. They didn't have we have a mandate to change the populations. But that wasn't part of that. That wasn't part of the agreement.
But when you give when you give that right over to the Jewish people,
it wasn't given over to them. It wasn't. By the way, they took it over in World War I. Just to let you know.
No, but that's we spoke about history.
So. No, what we said, countries conquering other countries took a completely different flavour after World War I and after World War II than it did before those times.
In what way? Give an example.
So for example, the League of Nations was established after World War I,
right, okay.
and the UN was established after World War II.
Right,
those tied countries together into agreements.
Right.
Now, what was happening during World War I? During World War I, when the Balfour Declaration was actually written, that was a time where there was a structural rebalancing of powers. The Ottoman Empire collapsed at that time, and that particular area, which was Palestine at that time, was overtaken by the British Empire, through which they did these deals, which they had no right to do under their own principles, and they gave...
Why did they not have a right to do that?
Because what right do they have to do that?
Because
that's the question.
They ruled the land of Israel.
But they said they had a mandate to govern there.
Put it this way, does England now have a right to give Gibraltar back to Spain if they want to? The British government.
Say that again, sorry?
Does the British government, talking about, let's say, Gibraltar, which is a British colony.
Yes.
We own
it's not a colony. It's part of Britain.
It's part of Britain. Do they have a right to give it to the government of Spain? Do they have a right to do that?
Well, not when the populations have not consented to that, according to democratic principles. The population, like you're just basically asking, can countries switch?
The population doesn't want the British government to either.
Okay, that's a different question now. You're asking now if the population, though, but now perfect. So you're saying the will of the population is important. So
yes,
if we go now, so was there a referendum that was done at that time with the Palestinian people? Do you want to be replaced by Jews? And if there was no such, then according to what your theory of justice is, then it shouldn't have been done, right?
No, my point is that governments that ruled countries have a certain right to give it to others. I don't.
No. I'm saying to you.
No.
You've said.
But Gibraltar, then
the mandate to govern. Sorry, go ahead.
Regarding Gibraltar, if the British would want to give over to Spain, then they'd have a right. I would think.
So people that have a British passport, what would happen to them in Gibraltar?
They'd also have a right.
No, hold on.
It wouldn't be.
Hold on.
Yeah.
Just think about what you're saying.
Yeah. Okay.
People,
I'm thinking, yeah.
Right. Say England leaves the European Union. All right.
Okay.
And
say when?
Well, no, it could happen. It could not happen. We don't know, right? Say England leaves the European Union, yeah, and then those individuals in Gibraltar have a British passport, and this becomes Spain now have to leave that area because actually there's no right to residence for British citizens in Spain.
Right.
They're not part of the European Union anymore. Do you think that's justified? They have to all leave so they have to give up their homes and go.
I don't know if that's morally correct.
You don't know?
No. It's a very grey area.
Oh, so you think that's a grey area? That's a problem. Let me ask you a question, right? So you see now, I think I'm getting through to you. I do think I'm getting through to you.
I don't know if these morals applied back in 1948 when the English, because you see the English governed Australia.
Right. What I am saying, but those principles that we're talking about are the principles by which and through which the Western governments maintained legitimacy throughout the ages, especially after the 1500s, especially after Charles I and the English Civil War and so on. The liberal principles, the democratic principles, and all that, those things that you're talking about have to be looked at through the lenses of those principles that Western governments hold themselves accountable to. Right. So if you accept that a changing of government shouldn't be done unless the will of the people or the population is consented, after World War I, after World War II, then in that case it would follow that the will of the Palestinian people was not consented, and therefore that changing of government.
There were also Jews living in Israel.
So
why would the
they were Palestinian Jews, though, weren't they? They were referred to as Palestinian Jews.
Okay, fine.
Yeah. So those are
those.
I'm not talking about Arabs. Well, they were a minority, weren't they? If you look at the number, if you look at the numbers, once again, it's in the book of the Struggle of Palestine. If you look in the 20s and 30s, there was a flooding in of Jewish population. Only in the 30s. Obviously, in the 40s, there was after the Holocaust and so on. There was even more of a flooding in.
Of course, yes.
But in the very beginning, before all of this happened, you wouldn't be able to say that Jews represented more than 10% of the population in Palestine.
What you're saying now is that England was as democratic back then in 1948 as it was now.
No, I'm saying that it held itself to those principles.
I don't know if it did.
No, it did. They had elections. They had universal suffrage. In fact, that's in that very year, 1918 was the year, they decided that women will get the vote as well. That was 1 year after the Balfour Declaration. So what we're talking about is a country which was accounting itself on its democratic principles that were giving another country to peoples who did not belong in that country without the consent of the population of that country, and that was against their principles, against their mandate, against the UN law, and against
I don't know what happened
and
today.
against the will of the Palestinians.
Today, if Britain would give Gibraltar back over to England.
Do you understand the point here?
I understand there is a point, but it boils down. But today, if Britain would give Gibraltar back over to Spain, then I don't know what happened to people.
What I'm saying to you is that those people, if they were forced to be evicted from their homes as a direct consequence of the change of government.
Muslims were forced to be evicted, or Palestinians were forced to be evicted?
That's certainly it's called the Nakba. After 1948, there was a mass immigration from the Palestinians.
Because of the War of Independence. This is after the War of Independence.
Yes.
Now, what my point is, after the War of Independence, you can't talk about morally what's correct anymore, because the war in itself created a situation where people denied Israel, people. So therefore, it led to two very diverse views. And people fighting each other. So obviously,
you think
post the war of independence.
But the thing is, Gandhi denied the state of Pakistan. All right. Okay. I mean, denying a state doesn't mean it's not a morally incorrect stance. The legitimacy.
Never said that,
right. So if someone says the way this state was established,
but you said the point that
is immoral or illegitimate.
Without the war of independence, had
so
Jews governed the land of Israel, then what you're saying is, had Jews governed the land of Israel without the war of independence, without the war of people, then the Muslims would have been driven from their homes and exiled from the country. And I'm not willing to stand by that.
No, it's not that they were going to. That's a hypothetical articulation. I'm saying that they were, in fact, that is what happened.
I'm saying that's because the Muslims didn't agree to the change in government.
First of all, let's use the word Arabs.
Sorry,
I think that's
I'm sorry,
right.
I didn't mean
because it's not all 1.7
of course, I don't want to generalize.
Well, let's just say even 1 billion at a time, or 800 billion. The population.
The Palestinians didn't abide to the change in government.
Yes, why should they do? Why? Tell me the reason why they should. So let me ask you a question.
I've asked you what happened. What would happen today if Gibraltar would be the British government would give Gibraltar back to Spain?
Let us say, for the sake of, let me give you.
People have a right there to
fine. Let's put it this way.
Yeah.
If we continue with this train of thought about conquest and so on, let's say, for instance, America stops being a superpower, stops being Israel's friend, and Israel gets taken over by another government through conquest, okay?
Yeah, okay.
They take over fair enough.
Yeah.
Now, do you accept that they should change the populations, tell the Israelis, the Jews at that time, to go to another place, go back to Europe, yeah? And we're going to put this country back for example, these individuals. Do you accept that that's a fair recourse?
It's probably a bit anti-democratic, yeah.
It's anti-democratic.
Yes.
It's not moral.
It's not moral, yes.
So why is it moral in the first instance, but it's not moral for that one?
Because I said that you're saying that when the Jews had planned to take over the land of Israel, they planned to drive Muslims out. I don't think that's necessarily true.
Actually,
you're giving me an example of a country telling all the Jews after they've taken over the land of Israel to leave.
Well, I will tell you something. This is a specific question on history.
Okay.
Ilan Pape actually wrote. He's an interesting historian.
Okay.
He wrote a book on he looked at the topographical information in that area at that time in the 40s and 50s in Palestine, and he also looked at plans. Like, this is in the primary source materials that you can actually retrieve online. For example, Plan Dalit. Plan Dalit was a plan which was from the Israeli government, which detailed within it that we were trying to reduce the population sizes of the Arabs and increase the population sizes.
I disagree to that.
Right,
so I can't justify that. And I said at the beginning, I don't necessarily justify Zionism.
No, no problem. But what I'm saying is,
I can't justify it.
But what I'm saying to you is that every time you're asking me for evidence, I can give you the primary source evidence. It's easier to give primary source evidence. It's not difficult to. Sorry, it's not difficult to do that, right? So what I'm saying is that there is clear demographic information, clear government resources that can point us to the fact that there was a concerted effort by the Israeli government in 1948 onwards that meant that Jewish people, Jewish elites, I should say, tried to force through genocide.
No, I do not.
Well, Plan Dalit is. What is genocide? It's literally
harassment of a people.
So they tried to get rid of those individuals from that country. That is referred to as genocide.
I've told you this is all after
1948.
Yes.
Right. Okay. So is that justifiable then?
No, that's not justifiable.
So, okay.
But you're mixing two things up here.
Which are?
Which are?
Yeah.
There's what should have happened and what did happen. What could have happened was there's the Jews taking government.
Yes.
And there's Muslims staying there.
Okay.
And
or Arabs.
Sorry.
Yes.
The Palestinians staying there, and there being some sort of country with Palestinians and Jews sort of getting along.
Okay, we'll finish it in 5 minutes. Okay.
But where Palestinians and Jews sort of getting along without any.
Who's the ruler though?
The Jews, because
Why
the
should
British
they be the
gave because that's a moral debate.
It's not a moral debate. You just decide.
You agree to me on
we
that.
accept. No. I said that was a medieval. That was a medieval construct. I'm saying that
what
the
would
British
happen in Gibraltar if it would go to Spain?
We already talked about that. And that's
you tell me.
I told you. Well, if the country is going to be consistent with its democratic principles, there's no way possible that Gibraltar can be returned back to Spain without at least a referendum from the people of Gibraltar. Do you agree with that? Referendum meaning a vote of all of the people in that country.
I'm not sure.
So you think that they can?
Yeah,
right.
but the problem.
Well, I don't think.
The problem is that, the people didn't choose that democratic system to begin with. If you'd have a country,
that's the thing. But they didn't choose it, but they were forced into it. These are the principles.
The English changed from capitalist democracy, so now.
I don't get it. Sorry. Sorry.
The problem is that even the English, they weren't democratic to begin with. They took over the country without being democratic. When the English did, and when they went conquering around the world.
No, but they so still, even when they're that's not correct. Because even when they were conquering around the world, they held themselves to liberal values.
Right.
Do you know that? I mean, do you know Napoleon, when he was doing, by the way, he was referred to as a liberal dictator.
Okay.
Which might not be democratic, but certainly is liberal. So far as holding themselves to these kind of values are concerned, there's more to be said by way of the coexistence of liberalism and colonialism, democracy and colonialism. It's not as far as to say it's whenever colonialism existed, democracy and liberalism didn't. They did actually coexist together in the British Empire. What I'm saying to
let me just finish my point.
Yes, of course. Go ahead.
That after 1948, you can't bring a proof to what could have happened.
Okay, let me.
That's what did happen.
Yeah.
To what should have happened. After 1948, what happened was because the Palestinians didn't agree to the takeover, where you could say they were right or wrong. Since then, there's been a major divide and split within the land, within the Holy Land, let's call it.
Yeah.
Therefore, there hasn't been any agreement on anything. So when you bring, when you tell me that Israelis have agendas to do this to Muslims and to Palestinians,
no, I didn't. All I've done, to be fair, Isaac, all I've done is provide primary and secondary source evidence whenever you've asked me for anything. So you've asked me.
So what's your point? What's your point now?
Isaac, let's finish off. The point is, if you are, depending on what your moral framework is, if your moral framework is you believe that the will of the people should be respected, then we know that the will of the Palestinian people was not respected. If your moral framework is, if you're being honest and straightforward and say my moral framework is Judaism, yes?
Yes.
If you just say that, then I'll respect you more, to be honest with you, because you have a much stronger case.
That could also be.
Right, no, fine. If you said my moral framework is Judaism, right?
That could also be.
No, I'm saying so also be. It's fine. Then let's not have this pseudo intellectual discussions about the UN and about international law, about democracy, about liberalism. Let's throw all of that into the dustbin of ideas, which, to be honest with you, those atheist Zionists, what I find incredible about it is that they adopt the Jewish position.
They try to create a Jewish identity of the atheists. That's a oxymoron.
However,
I completely agree to
I agree. But however, there's something more to be said by way of that. I would say if you were to take the Old Testament narrative very seriously, then it's from the Nile to the Euphrates. So that would mean that you have to stand and also say that the Jews have as much right in Palestine as they do all the way up to the Euphrates and all the way down to Egypt. Not only just Sinai, by the way.
That could also be. Yes,
So not only just Sinai, so into where all those areas up until the Nile. And so if you have that position, then all you're saying is we have the right to war. What I would say, if that is your position, and I'll end with this, right?
But I don't agree to that. I don't necessarily agree to that because I could also only go to that. You could say that's only in the days when Messiah comes and we've been exiled.
What I would say, if that is your position,
but no, don't say that's not necessarily my position.
No, but even if someone had, because that's the only way you could work the argument, and we've looked at every other way. If this
I never said no.
We've looked at the democratic alternative. We looked at the, we looked at the post.
And also, there's another argument to be argued is that that's what happened in 1948.
Okay.
The question is now, what's going on in Israel?
Okay, let me just finish off my thought here.
Which means two sides of
Let me just finish off my thought here. Okay. Even if you had this conquest ideology, which by the way, if you have it, you have it. If you believe in it, you believe it. I would say to you, but you didn't even fight yourself. That's what I would say. The Jews didn't even fight themselves. They relied upon Big Brother British Empire to do all the fighting for them.
No, of course the Jews.
Oh yes, they did.
Of course they fought against the British themselves.
No, they didn't. No, they fought against the British in little Haganah and Irgun groups.
Yes, of course.
Well, I'm not talking about that. they did not conquer the land themselves. They relied upon a proxy empire to do that. So I would say to you, you can't. I would have a lot more respect for you if you could say my forefathers fought your forefathers and beat them. If you said that and conquered the land and they were forced to leave, no problem. Even if you said have more respect for being Zionist. Let me just say. Is that what you're saying? Let me just say that. And they did, by the way, beat them in some wars where the Arabs were nationalistic and they've been divided and they had been humiliated. But what I'm going to say is this, is that when you guys, your forefathers that had this ideology, not all of those individuals, when they claimed to own that land, they didn't do the fighting themselves. They waited for some other empire to give them it on a silver plate. So you can't even use a conquest ideology.
But the conquest ideology means that we as a nation have a standpoint to fight for the land of Israel.
You depend.
We've been exiled we were exiled 2,000 years ago from the land of Israel.
No problem.
Since then, we didn't have a standpoint to even start fighting.
My friend, everyone was exiled from everywhere. In 1066, you had the Norman invasion.
When you say that my forefathers didn't fight, from where did you want them to be? From where did you want them to get a group from? We were in Germany.
You didn't even conquer the land yourself. You didn't even conquer it yourself.
Who's we?
The Jewish nation didn't conquer it themselves.
But at that point, there wasn't an identity.
They were fighting the British, actually.
At that point, there wasn't an identity.
They fought them, the guys that helped them.
At that point, there wasn't an identity of a Jewish nation so much. We were Jews scattered around the world.
You were fighting the British. That's what was happening.
Yes, you had a few groups fighting the British.
So,
as you say, what you're trying to say is...
those groups became the government. They became the government.
Yes, us as a Jewish nation didn't fight, but we didn't have a Jewish nation.
But Begin, who was the president in 1971, who was actually part of a splinter group called Urgun, which is a terrorist organization, which killed 91 innocents in King David Hotel. He became the president
That's what I said. I don't know that do not.
But sorry, there was a point. There was a point I was going to make to you, which was this.
But you're talking about the Israelis, but the Palestinians. There are loads of Palestinians that don't hold of any Jews being in the country
Isaac,
either.
listen to me. The reason why I was saying Hamas was funded by Israel in 1980s.
Yeah.
The reason why that's an important consideration is because the main threat at that time was the PLO, the Palestinian Liberation Organization. And the reason why they were the main they had the majority of the military capabilities and so on. Yeah. And so what happened was that there was a conflict in interest, or there was there was a struggle for power. Yeah. There was a struggle for power between Hamas, and it continues until this day, and the PLO, right? And that struggle for power, the Israelis saw an opening and they said, divide and conquer. If we fund the Hamas, we militarize them, then they'll fight each other. We don't have to fight them.
That could be, yes.
Yeah, so it happens.
So I can't justify that. I can't justify everything.
Listen, the reason why I'm telling you this is it's all about narrative creation, knowledge production. The reason why is because the idea of a terrorist, if you look at the 40s, 50s, 60s, 70s, 80s, 90s, 2000s, and so on, you'll find that it was more to do with Arab nationality in the 40s, 50s, and 60s, all right? It was about Arab nationalism versus Zionism. That was the struggle, all right?
Okay.
Religion played a secondary, you could even say a tertiary it was a tertiary consideration at that point. In terms of the politics, the propaganda of both the Arab governments, not just in Palestine, but around it, like in Egypt and Syria and so on, Jordan. And I've looked at
the Muslim, the Palestinians walking around,
but listen,
in the country is.
Do you mind if I just?
Can
I just finish my point? The same actions were being done, okay, all of this time.
You've got the same problem with America funding Mujahideen and all these things.
Are you with me? The reason why I mentioned this is because the same actions are being done, but the explanatory force has changed. The reason why these things are happening in the 60s and 70s, according to, if you look at, just for example, the propaganda in newspaper materials, is completely different to how it was in the 90s and 2000s. It shifted from a nationalistic agenda to a narrative about religion. And that was that coincided, by the way, you have to know this, with the ending of the Cold War, which happened in 89, and the final soldiers left in 91. That happened a good 27, 28 years ago. So obviously America needed a new enemy. Israel needed to kind of come with America, and they came together, the elites of those countries, almost in tacit collusionary format, to create a new narrative of the Muslim terrorist threat. That happened. It was in the interest of the Israeli. It was in the interest of.
So an opinion. I don't
Listen, it was in the interest. Well, why is it
of the West creating a?
Listen to the reality.
I don't buy that.
Well, let me explain to you. Osama bin Laden, who we already
Look at what ISIS is doing to Muslims. Nothing to do with the West.
Listen.
Look at what ISIS is doing to Muslims.
You're still not thinking as broad as I want you to think. What I'm saying to you is 1979, which is a fact. You can find. I have the newspaper clipping. Sorry. Do you mind?
ISIS are killing Muslims.
Fact.
Millions are being Muslims are being killed.
Not millions, but
what's going on in
not millions.
Few hundreds of thousands.
Not even hundreds, tens of thousands.
No, but that's
thousands. I wouldn't even say hundreds of thousands.
Okay,
not hundreds. They haven't got that power. Let's not over-exaggerate.
This is in Iraq, Syria. We're talking about all different Muslim
countries. But even then,
are being killed.
Fine. So
by other Muslims.
I agree with you. So.
Okay, that's also so. What this terror and a lot of that's got to do with the holy wars and what ISIS are proclaiming holy war. What's that got to do with the West?
Well, I would say to you that
you're telling me that
the West but even ISIS
certain Muslims to be terrorists.
Well, it's got everything to do. It's everything to do with the West because they left the power vacuum. 2003. Well, let me.
Look at Isaac, 9/11. There was
Isaac, come down. Isaac, please come.
Came and bombed 2,000 people.
We're having a discussion here.
Okay.
And you're just getting overexcited. Look, I'm saying to you.
I'm telling you.
Isaac. Let me.
Okay, I'm asking you a question.
Right, fine. Can I explain?
Two planes went into the Twin Towers.
Yes.
9/11. 2,200 and something people died.
Okay.
Were blown out of the sky, burnt alive, and fell to the death. Right? Why has that to do with the West prototyping Muslims?
Well, it's got everything to do with the West. If you look at, if we look at the just ad bellum and the just ad bello, the justification for war that Osama bin Laden supposedly wrote. We don't know to what extent this is true. He wrote this. There was a fatwa he wrote in 1998, a fatwa he wrote in 2002, and
so you're sort of justifying his fatwas.
Am I justifying his fatwas?
No, because the West did it. It's not him.
No,
you're saying it's not him.
Well, Isaac, now you're playing games. Now you don't understand. Now there's a language barrier.
I'm sorry. I really don't understand.
No, well, let me explain to you.
Okay, yeah.
If you look at his fatwas and his modes of justification,
how he generally against the West. Yes.
Can you explain? Can you just give me?
Sorry, you're right. Sorry.
This is knowledge, information you don't know. All right. So you ask me a question. I'm giving you the answer with dates and figures.
Okay, sorry,
you should. Yeah. All right.
Okay.
So, what Osama bin Laden and Ayman al-Zawahiri and others, before him and after him, how they justify the cancelling out of non-combatant immunity, which is a principle that Islamically is upheld even by them, by the way, even by them it's upheld. The reason how they cancelled that principle out of non-combatant immunity is what they say is the principle of reciprocity. They say that they're killing they say, Osama bin Laden said in his fatwa in 98, why are we killing you? Because you're killing us. He said in his fatwa in 2002 the same thing. In other words, the reasons why ISIS can even exist is because they justify their acts and their terrorism, through the actions of the Western world, according to them. According to them.
That justifies a person's actions.
I didn't say justified. I said that's what they're doing.
Why is that the West's problem?
Because the West, according
because do not make it right.
I agree.
Very simple.
True.
So there's a moral debate about let me just.
No, I agree with you. No, hold on. Let's be clear. We totally agree on that point. But what I'm saying is, what is the West got to do with it? According to their justification methods, they say the West, because they've come into the US, Saudi Arabia, they've come in as military base in Saudi Arabia, because of they continually reference Israel, Palestine, Bosnia, and Chechnya. They are talking about either the West's allying with Israel, or direct intervention of Muslim lands, or acquiescence of Muslim death. That is how they've been able to justify it. In the same way as the Christchurch killer was able to justify his murder, in the same way, by the way, as Mehekan Begin, the president of Israel. Hold on, excuse me. The president of Israel, in his book The Revolt, which he wrote, which you can read, is a book, a primary source material. He says in the beginning of the book, we hate those Arabs, and he tells the people how he went into villages and killed all the Arabs. He justifies his
I never justified what the Zionists did.
Did I say that you did it?
So why are you bringing this to me?
I'm saying that their just and bellow and just bellow, their modes of justification is actually the same throughout. that the Jews have the Jewish terrorists have the same way, the Christchurch killer has the same way, and so does the Muslim terrorists have the same. It's the principle of reciprocity. You're doing it to us, we're doing it to you. So from that perspective, they can cancel out non-combatant immunity, and there can be terrorism.
So are you, in other words, saying that the West is just as responsible and just as
no, I'm not saying any of that. Don't strawman me. I'm saying that every terrorist, every single terrorist, every extremist, every monstrous person that cancels out this principle of non-combatant immunity must first go through a justification program in their mind.
Yeah, that's true.
And that justification program has to start with a perpetual conflict which they propose for themselves. We've been driven out of our land, we've been killed, with this, with that, and then killing children becomes legitimate. It's legitimate for ISIS, it's legitimate for the Christchurch killer, and it's legitimate for the Israeli state. My point is that you can't see that the Israeli government is ISIS, and ISIS is the Israeli government. There is no difference. There is no difference. The only difference is the Israeli government wears nice suits.
I don't necessarily
I would say no problem. The Israeli government.
Don't say the Israeli.
Why? They have the same principles. The only difference is
they're a democratic
what's the
society.
difference? So what? It's they cancel. They both do kill people.
They
have
do
both,
out of
they both
security for the country because they're going to be killed.
That's what ISIS says.
That's what I mean. That's what ISIS says.
That's what ISIS says. Do you know that's what ISIS says? Look at their books, Dabiq. Look at their magazines. Have you read what they said?
Well, that's why anyone that doesn't convert to Islam gets butchered. They start raping
No, that's
women.
not. They don't quote about that. They don't say that.
ISIS, that's what they do.
Okay, ISIS say Al Qaeda. I'm telling you, I've read what.
I don't care what they say. I know they go to everything.
Well.
Them going into
I can say the same thing about Israelis. I can say the same thing.
And killing men
their
because they
process
don't convert
of
to Judaism.
Look, if
that's what the Israelis.
It's not about conversion. It's about genocide. It's about getting the people, those Arabs out, and keeping those Jews.
What do you mean getting those Arabs out? But I'm telling you, I'm not necessarily going to be Zionism. I'm saying as of now,
that's what's happened, isn't it?
There is an argument to understand what the Israelis are up to. They are they're living a life
ISIS and the US.
By death.
By the way,
now, if they don't defend
do you say that ISIS is a legitimate state?
No.
Okay, why not?
Who do they think they are?
No, they're not a legitimate state.
What ownership do they have on anything?
No. You were saying Israel conquered, yes? Your justification for their existence is conquest. ISIS conquered their lands, you can make the same justification, no?
I never said that was a justification.
No, you said
I said the justification was that the British government, if there is one, the British government gave it over to them.
So what's the difference between ISIS?
But hold on.
Let's be honest. Let's be honest now.
You said the blanket statement and expected me to buy by it that the Israeli government is ISIS. Now I completely disagree.
Well, they have the same justification of non-combatant immunity.
The Israelis do not have agendas to kill people.
Yes, they do.
No, they don't.
It's mentioned. Plan Dala. Have you read it?
Listen.
Have you read it?
All these attacks.
Have you read it though?
Why should I read it? I know what goes on.
No, but if you live in Israel, have you seen what they said in Parliament?
Have you ever been to Israel?
Do you think I'm allowed in a country like that?
I came back on EasyJet flight.
I'm not allowed.
Dude,
they kick us back out, man.
Dude,
trust me. They
trust
kick us
you.
Back out.
I came back just on an EasyJet flight from Tel Aviv to Stansted.
They won't let me in. Trust me. I can tell you.
There was 10. I was having a nice conversation with 10 Muslims.
I know the Muslims go there, but not every Muslim. If you're affiliated to a charity that boycotts Israel, they don't let you in. Norman Finkelstein is not allowed.
Yes,
why not?
Because you're a threat to the country.
What if I boycott the don't eat the dates?
Listen, I told you I can't justify.
Don't eat dates. I'm not gonna kill you. I'm saying don't.
You do that. You burn a flag in America. They put you in prison. Why? Just because that's what happens. People.
Sorry.
You burn an American flag.
Not in this country, my friend. You can burn every American flag you want here.
I know you can, but you burn an American flag in America.
Like you said,
yeah, Norman Finkelstein is not allowed. The point I'm making to you is this:
the point I'm making to you is if you ask people to know for two states, people ask people now.
Who's people? Which people? Sorry.
Bibi Netanyahu.
Oh, Bibi.
But that's what they call him. Benjamin. Bibi Netanyahu.
We call him bastard. Bastard Netanyahu.
Right, okay.
Sorry.
That's not an argument.
Do you like him?
What?
Do you like this bastard?
Wait. What, you associate the word liking someone with bastard. You can like a bastard.
Do you like the guy?
What's that to do with that? It's not an argument. That's an
I'm just asking.
What I'm saying is, if he's offered to talk peace,
yes.
and he said it, you know this.
He's not allowed to.
He's offered to talk peace.
100%.
He sat down with Yasser Arafat, all these people.
Okay.
He sat down with them.
So did
the problem is, as of now,
what do you call it? Osama bin Laden sat down with the CIA.
Oh, did he?
Yes, in 1979, they were friends. They were good friends with each other. Does that mean anything to me? What is that? Or how's that an evidence?
I'm asking.
In fact, did you know the Times?
You're not justifying.
The Times had a picture of Osama bin Laden calling him a hero.
All you're doing is calling Israel ISIS. I'm asking.
No, that's not all I'm doing.
All the Israelis.
I'm saying that you said.
I'm asking a basic question. What do you want 6 million Israelis? Let's say you're morally correct that they shouldn't be in the country.
Yes.
The problem is, what do you want 6 million Israelis to do now?
I think that it's a
and all you're doing is calling them ISIS. All you're doing is saying that they kill people. All you're doing is saying that they have agendas to get rid of Muslims. I'm telling you now, there's a major conflict, and it's.
Are you asking me a question? You've asked me a question.
Let me just finish.
Yes,
let me just finish.
Yes.
And
but calm down.
I'm not. I'm very calm.
Okay. Yes.
Just give it 2 minutes.
Yeah, it's alright. Okay.
I'm cool.
Yeah.
I'm saying people are killing each other.
Yep.
And we know for a fact there are Palestinians who want to kill Israelis, have a agenda to kill all Israelis.
Okay.
We know that's a fact. It's a given. I'm telling you now. I had friends walking around Jerusalem. It was scary.
Okay.
People, you hear of
scary.
terrorist attacks. You read the Israeli newspapers. There's terrorist attacks every couple of weeks.
Okay, go ahead. Keep going.
Well, as of now,
it's not. By the way, it's not the case. I've looked at the numbers. That's fine.
It's not the case. I'm telling you facts. I lived there. I've lived there. I've studied there for the past
year.
Yeah,
but no. I know you studied there for the past year. So that's 1 year in 70 years of its history. So that's 1/70th.
No. What's that to do with anything?
That's a lot.
Asking as of now. No, I'm asking as of now.
It's like 1%.
Nothing to do with it. No, I don't.
And it's only one area as well. So you don't really have the full knowledge of that.
Yeah, but you hear terrorist attacks left, right, and centre.
Oh, you hear them? Yes, you do certainly.
No, this is fact.
Yeah, but it's usually a bullet going into the head of a Palestinian.
I know there's a place called Hanof in Jerusalem where 2 years back,
so what numbers are? So look at the civilian casualties of Palestinians versus
That could
Israel.
also be true.
No, hold on. Let's look at that. Let's look at the last 10 years.
Has Israel ever just gone and done airstrikes on Gaza without rockets coming before? Never.
How do you know that?
Of course. There's rocket.
So what about
they made Iron Dome for a reason.
So you're now justifying. You're candidly
My
justifying.
parents lived there in 1991.
So let's end this discussion because I know it's going to become just like a debate, and now it's clear that you're. Yeah.
It's clear then.
Right. So what's clear? Well, the only thing that's clear to me is that your failure to recognise the.
I know you, but you're.
You haven't let me speak, man. I mean,
you've been speaking for a long time. All I'm saying, you just said the blanket.
Have I been speaking for a long time, or has it been quite even actually?
Okay, it could be even. Yeah, but you don't say that. You said it's been even. Okay, it's been even. Right. You said
you seem a bit discombobulated right now.
That could be because after a long argument, I've been arguing for a couple of things. That's why it's nothing personal.
Huh?
I don't know what that means.
It's from context, I understood. Also, didn't really know that. Word. Yeah. So the point is that you said that Israel is a terrorist. The Israeli government now is a terrorist organization. What I'm saying is, I do not agree to Zionists. I don't agree to everything they do. But you can't call them a terrorist organization because
I can call them what I want, actually.
Of course you can.
And I have. And do you know why I say that? I say that, look, Irgun was actually...
you just changed the complexity of the argument.
Do you mind if I...
No, let me just... I was just finishing.
Do you want to finish off what you're saying? Go ahead.
That's exactly what I'm asking you to.
Go ahead, yeah.
So what I'm saying is that as of now, there is definitely a threat to the security of 6 million Jews living in Israel. 6 million Israelis.
Okay, and there's no threat on the Palestinians?
There is.
So which one is more severe?
I don't know. I'm asking.
Oh, you don't know? Okay, let's look at the numbers then. Let's look at the numbers. You have how many people living in Gaza? How many people? It's the most densely populated place in the world, right? I know that. And can they go out and can they come in?
How many Palestinians?
You've had a long time to speak, and I have given you the opportunity. Okay. Let me say.
Last question.
So what I was going to say to you is simply this. If you're being honest with yourself,
I'm willing to be. I'm very open-minded.
Yeah, if you're very open-minded, you'd know that if you look at the fact that in 1971 or whatever it was, the fact that Begin was allowed to become president of the country.
That could be.
You're just not letting me speak.
Okay.
He was actually one of the people who, you were talking about 9/11, you were talking about Osama bin Laden. He was part of an operation which went into a hotel, and killed 91 innocent individuals. In one of, it's very wrong, but he was your president in your country for 10 years or something like that, and then after him, the same party, which was actually, if you look at its history, the Likud party, when all, in English we say Likud party.
Ludicrous.
Ludicrous party, yes. That party, which has its historical origins in a terrorist organization, which is Irgun, continues to perpetrate this terrorist act all the way up until this time. It's done so throughout the intifadas, and up until this point in time, all of these operations that have been done, and look at the casualties of Palestinians compared to the casualties of Israelis, there is no comparison. There simply cannot be any comparison. It's not even one.
That's because Israel is more capable of defending itself.
Oh, it's not defending; it's attacking. That's what I'm saying. And attacking who? The children. Look how many children have been killed. Is that something to be proud of? Is that
how many children have been killed in Israel? As
not many, actually. So, yes, I do know, and not many. That's the answer. Okay, how many? How many? What are the official statistics?
100,000. I don't know.
100,000?
Not hundreds and thousands.
No, not even. I dare you, in the last 10 years, to find me a statistic that says, in the last 1 year, that 5 Israeli children have been killed, or 10 Israeli children have been killed. No, it's not like this, man.
Okay.
It's minimal. It's minimal.
But imagine. Look
at the amount that are dying in it. It's not comparable, man. There's no fireworks, rockets that you're talking about. It's not a war, man.
You haven't answered what there is to do now. I've asked you a question.
Okay, well, look, you're asking me the question of the $1 million question, right?
Okay,
it's a pessimistic future, in my opinion, right? There's no solution because you have these competing powers. They've all got interest in that country. That's how it is.
And let me ask you one more last question before we part. Do you find any problem with the Palestinians living in Israel?
Pardon?
Do you hold of everything the Palestinians do?
Sorry?
Or do you have any problems with what the Palestinians do in Israel? You with them 100%, or you've got your?
I'm certainly with them 100%, but obviously, I'm certainly with them 100%.
Every single Palestinian, whatever his
agenda but obviously there's no. Of course not. That's a ridiculous position for anyone to hold. Yeah, so I don't agree with anyone.
So there are Palestinians that do want to wipe every single Israeli off the map. That's what I'm saying. Just like you're talking about the Israelis, there are Palestinians
but
like
Isaac, the truth is, most Palestinians' main concerns are their own survival and preservation.
That's Israelis' main concerns. If you get rockets coming in from Scotland to London every couple of days.
But David has become Goliath, and unfortunately, maybe in the Holocaust this is the Holocaust industry kind of discussion. Maybe in the Holocaust that kind of rhetoric would have been totally acceptable, and it is totally acceptable. But when we're talking about you are the bigger and stronger and capable military, doing it to these little groups of children and protesters throwing rocks and whatever, your case is no longer bought.
Why?
Because it's like me going to a primary school.
The government is worried about innocent Israelis being killed. I don't understand you.
Oh, okay. Well, let them be worried about that.
It's not worried. It's a fact.
Let them be worried about that. They have a right to be worried about everything. But here's what I'm saying to you: is that look on the ground, look at the data, look at the statistics, look at the history. Everything shows that this is a government.
Brother, he's up. We are going to Krikulu.
Okay, let me come with you. All right, yalla.
What's your name?
Take care, Muhammad. Yes. Thank you, my friend. All right, let's go, man.
I am so grateful to Allah for having guided me to Islam. Sadly, I am the only Muslim in my family. It hurts me that my parents haven't accepted Islam yet, and I ask Allah to guide them. But it also gives me a special drive to work for the establishment of Islam. I don't want anyone to miss the chance of becoming Muslim. The Prophet ﷺ said that the Muslims are like one body. If you can feel my pain, would you please help me relieve it? You are now my new family. Click the link and donate to establish this masjid and share in the reward for the message of Islam reaching the corners of Norway.